Good morning. It's 6:30 here on Sunday morning, and this is the Sunday rotation of the Earth because the sun doesn't rise and the sun doesn't set. The Earth rotates. So the question is, what do you really know? What do you believe versus what you know, and can you tell the difference? That's the topic this Sunday morning of April the 19th, 2020. Tomorrow is Monday, 4/20/2020. So happy 4/20/2020 early. What do you know versus what you believe? There is a interesting thing to think about here. And a lot of people don't think about it. And this is what creates a lot of false beliefs, a false knowing. Let me put it that way. So, for whatever reason in your life, for whatever motivation, whatever prompts it, you reach a point to where you think you know this something. And I've had people argue or dispute this. It's like, okay, I believe, I know. I'll hear people say this. They know there's a God, and it's like, how do you know? What convinces you? If you know something, you should be able to use that knowledge to convey it to somebody else to convince them equally. It's okay to believe something as long as you can distinguish the difference between that believing and the knowing. The world of the paranormal, the world of Bigfoot. I know there's a Bigfoot. I have no doubt there's a Bigfoot. How do you know this? I have seen a Bigfoot. And then you dissect it down to, first of all, they cannot prove anything. If you go through all the videos, I'm not trying to just dog out Bigfoot. It's on many subjects. In fact, it stems down to what people believe about this COVID-19 coronavirus. And this is what prompted this topic this Sunday morning. You have a belief, other people have other beliefs. If there was a true knowing and your knowledge was based on provable fact, then it would not be a belief, it would be a knowing. So I believe, and it's like having faith. Faith and belief are like this. They're right together. I have faith and I have a belief I'm going to safely make it through this day. I have a faith and I have a belief that I am going to safely make it to wherever I'm going and back today, safely again, and survive this trip. But until I have completed that trip, I can't prove it. It's all a belief, it's all a faith. And I know, my rational brain knows, I know for a fact that there's no sure way of knowing that I'm going to make it because things happen out of my control. I can be the safest, best driver. I can have my mirrors adjusted. I can drive. I'm not using this. I'm very focused on my driving. And we see it happen every day. Another driver does something. It's that, so you don't know. You can have faith, but that faith is not backed up by fact. So you've got a certain population of the world because because they were born and raised in a certain culture. United States, southern states, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, especially those states, there's a certain belief in Christianity. And even within those belief foundations, it's not totally unified. the Church of Christ, the Pentecostals, the Baptists, the Methodists, the Catholics, on and on and on. All these different denominations have a different version of the same belief. And that carries over to, again, like the Bigfoot community. There are literally lots and lots of people, into the thousands, maybe the tens of thousands, that just firmly believe in Bigfoot. But that group in that believing gets broken down into segments because this person believes a certain thing about Bigfoot that this person over here isn't convinced of. Their levels of critical thinking vary. So this person over here, they see tree limbs laying in a certain way as they take a journey through a forested area. And this group over here is convinced that that had to be some intelligent force like Bigfoot to have created this, and it looks like a nesting area, what we call where we sleep. But they haven't, it's just based on whatever in their mind triggered this belief. Another group in this segment of Bigfoot believers will say, no, I don't believe the tree limb stuff. I don't go for that. You have some that say, I've been a deer hunter all my life. I've hunted for elk all my life. I've covered this territory in and out. I've never seen anything I couldn't explain away. Nothing that wasn't natural. I don't believe in Bigfoot. Somebody else comes along, it's like, I've been deer hunting for 10 years, blah, 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 and I've seen Bigfoot. I know Bigfoot's real. So it's hard. And for some reason, the mentality hasn't been put into people to know the difference between a belief and a knowing. And a lot of people can be very convincing. They don't know. They just have a belief, but their belief is so strong that they can be very convincing. And the fascinating thing about a belief is that once whatever has created this belief in you, then you are always looking for something to substantiate, to validate that belief. Where someone who doubts that belief, we totally focus on disproving the belief. And then the very scientific mind will say, I don't know. I have nothing to convince me that you're correct. But I can't say with 100% certainty that it's not true. A wonderful example of this that I heard many years ago by a very intelligent person, very articulate man. It's like proving reindeer can't fly. We all know the story of Santa Claus and the reindeer, the flying reindeer, and Santa making his trip around the world. So how do you know reindeers can't fly? Well, you can run an experiment. See, I can take 100 reindeer to the tallest building in New York or any city and get them up to the roof, and I can line them up, and one by one, I can push them off that building. I say, fly. First one falls, doesn't fly, to the ground it goes, squash. All I've proven is that one, for some reason, didn't or couldn't fly. So let's do the next one. I've got a bunch of reindeer. I rounded them up, got them up here. Reindeer number 2. Take him to the edge of the building, push him off, fly. Reindeer doesn't fly. Falls rapidly to the ground, squash, no more reindeer. Well, I know for a fact that those 2 reindeer either could not fly or had no desire to fly. And I can do that with all 100 reindeer. And at the end of it, all I've done is prove that those 100 reindeer couldn't fly or didn't want to fly. for whatever reason. Humans jump off buildings and with intent to kill themselves. So maybe these reindeer just did not want to save their own lives. I don't know. The where we stand in our understanding today, the practical knowledge to gain from this is that most reindeer don't fly. Okay, if so, I have been using Bigfoot as an example through the woods. I've been hunting, I've been camping, primitive camping all over the place, not just in Alabama, but in Tennessee, all over, in Mexico and in Canada. Never seen anything that totally comes to saying there was a big Sasquatch, Bigfoot-like character. So I have nothing to convince me of a belief in this Bigfoot. And I'm going to be prone to say, and I've gone through the YouTube videos, I've seen the videos, and I've not seen anything that looks credible. Nothing convincing. Nothing that couldn't be staged or created on video. So I am yet not convinced there's a big. Someone else has either been out in the middle of the night, camping, or driving down an isolated dirt road, and they see something out of the corner of their eye. It looks like it moved, it has a shape, and they are convinced it's a Bigfoot. They saw something, and immediately, because of what they've seen depicted in drawings and in fiction, they convinced it was a Bigfoot. And it's kind of like Jesus. It's the same way. From a Bible-based viewpoint, there's absolutely nothing to give an indication of what Jesus actually looked at. There's nothing to demonstrate how he wore his hair, whether he had a sharp nose or square jaw, or whether he had a moon pie face, or there's nothing to say whether he was 5 feet tall or 6.5 feet tall. No indication whatsoever. Never once does the Bible come out and even say, and Jesus stood towering over his 12. Or Jesus, being the short man he was, had to look up at Paul. There's nothing there. Zero. Somewhere in history, someone like Michelangelo, an artist, comes along and has read these accounts, and he has this vision of what he feels this Jesus character would look like, and he draws from his imagination. There's no knowing there, just from his imagination he draws out this figure. And now to this day, people see this shape on toast, and a reflection in a door and a window on a tree, and they think immediately, I saw Jesus. They have dreams. They have near-death experience. And the whole thing, to me, there's not a knowing. Let's get that straight. There's not a knowing because we have no basis of good, credible foundation to put this knowing there. There's no description of this Jesus anywhere. So everything you see depicted and that's been ingrained in your mind is very misleading. And from a biblical viewpoint, I believe that's a very important thing to take note of, because I often say that Christianity has, unfortunately, Elvis-sized Jesus. So it's no longer about the message, it's about the messenger. You talk to most Christians, and out of this book, the Protestant version of that book, there's more than one version, the Catholic version, the Orthodox version. Out of that Protestant version of this book, the average Christian can quote 2 or 3 scriptures. And their entire basis of their faith and their belief not their knowing, because they can't know. Even the Bible itself says there's got to be faith. Is based on just a couple of things about this Jesus character. How important is it to you to know rather than simply believe? I've delved into the world of paranormal, and my background's in religion. I spent a big part of my life, at least in the peripheral, if not full time, at least in the peripheral of my life, always pondering and paying attention to these subjects and watching what other people do, trying to collect information for myself. Should I believe this? Should I be convinced that this is true? Is it just somebody's opinion? Is it just a theory? Is it just, and I want to be careful when we say theory, because the non-scientific mind uses the word theory in a different way than a true scientist would use it. Because the creationist would say evolution is just a theory. So I'm not going to dig into that much, except to say that when so is gravity. We know gravity is real. So we're not going to go there, but I shouldn't have used the word theory. Here's the bottom line. How important is it for me to know, to have the best foundation for my belief? Seriously, how important is it for me to have a solid foundation for whatever belief I'm holding on to? Because that belief's going to guide my life to some degree, one way or the other. That belief is going to be part of who I am, one way or the other. So how important is it to me to know versus to believe? And do I understand the difference between believing and knowing? Some people don't want to think about it that deeply. Some people don't want to delve into it any deep. I believe. Don't want to talk about it. I believe. And so you've got to automatically, when somebody has that attitude, you've got to automatically say, fine, you're welcome to your belief. I'm glad that you accept the fact it's just merely a belief. Some of us require a good foundation for what we grab a hold of, because that whatever is going to be part of who we are, it's going to be part of our what guides us through life. So if it's Bigfoot, it's like the world of the paranormal. Believe me, I've been ghost hunting. I've examined all this stuff. People put out these pictures every day on Facebook. Somebody's putting out another picture. Do you see it? And I look, it's like, no, I don't see it. It's because once you have this belief so strong, you're looking for nothing except what will validate that belief. Go back to the reindeer. The first 5 pushed them off. Fly. It didn't fly. So far, I've not found a reindeer that could fly. Well, guess what? I didn't push all the reindeer from all around the world. I can't say that there's not a reindeer that don't fly. I can only say that 100 that pushed out the belly don't fly. So if I'm convinced that reindeer fly, I'm going to overlook the fact that 100 didn't and say, well, there's 10,000 that possibly could. You didn't push them off. You don't know they can't fly. That's true. You don't know. But if you applied that same thought in every part of life, you see where it could lead you. It's like, okay, the Hindus believe there's all these gods. They have a plethora of gods. If you've been to a Hindu temple, if you've studied anything about Hinduism, they've got a god for everything under the sun and the sun itself. From a Christian viewpoint, it's like, that's their belief. I don't believe that. Well, how do you know that they're not right and you're wrong? Do you give any credence to that? You just assume that this is the way I was taught. I'm an Anglo, or I'm American, or whatever. I'm right because my book said I'm right. How do you know the Hindu's not right? How do you know the Muslim's not right? It's all beliefs. They have the same foundation, except just different books. Different writers have said books. That's the only difference. The difference between believing and knowing. And when you can distinguish what all these things are based on, then you can see why it opens up to so many denominations, even within Christianity, that they can't decide amongst themselves which is the correct version of Christianity. Should women? I mean, there is a scripture that says something about drinking poison and getting bit by a poisonous snake. There's scripture. So how can you tell me that handling poisonous snakes is wrong? That's a proof of my faith. You can go on through this into infinity. The Catholics, they believe in transmutation. When they do the communion and the priest blesses the wine and blesses the wafer, in the Catholics' belief, that wine and wafer literally becomes the blood and the flesh of Jesus. It's called transmutation. Baptists, not so much. Baptists won't even use real wine. So you got all these divisions. Some levels of Christianity, some denominations don't read Harry Potter. They cast spells in Harry Potter. Others like, that's just fiction. So you got all these different levels of all these different things. And this is where you've got to determine what you believe versus what you know. There's a huge importance in being able to make this distinguishment and to accept this fact that believing and knowing are two different things, is that you become more accepting of other people's beliefs. You're less dogmatic in regards to your beliefs because you understand that you simply believe it for whatever reasons. It could be based on a book, the Bible. It could be based on another book, the Quran. It could be based on Nostradamus. It could be based on somebody that wrote a book about Bigfoot. Whatever book you take as your book to base your beliefs on. It can be based on what mom and dad taught me. It can be based upon my culture, when and where I was born and raised. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it a fact. And it certainly does not make it a knowing. It simply makes it a matter of belief, of faith. We all have been brought up with certain traditions, and this is fine as long as you keep that balance of knowing that it's all our interpretations of this unknown. Just as in Bigfoot, the same with gods. Based upon what we've read, what little data we've been able to accumulate, that's the basis of it. Your view of Jesus is based upon some drawings by probably Michelangelo hundreds of years, if not thousands, after this Jesus was said to roam the earth. So you don't know. So how can you say, I saw Jesus? You can't. You can say, I believe I saw Jesus. And that's a huge difference than saying, I know I saw something. To distinguish those things makes you a very balanced person, makes you a more accurate, truthful, honest person. And that's important because whatever God may be out here in the vastness of this universe, I would hope that said God would be more interested in that honesty, in that balance, Even, and I focus on a Christian perspective because in the culture I'm in, it's a Christian culture. It's mostly Christian people. Even the ones that don't go to church feel they believe again in this Christian teaching about Jesus. Paul wrote in Corinthians, the 13th chapter, he said, if I have faith to move mountains, I do not have love, I am nothing. He also said, if I have, of these three, faith, hope, and love is the greatest. Do you see what he's emphasizing there? Do you understand that he's putting love above even faith? Do you see that? And that's an important thing to acknowledge. I know love because love is accepting, love is embracing, love is understanding, love is not just compassion, it's empathy. Love has the ability to say, I can put myself in your shoes and I can understand. I can understand where you're coming from. I may not agree with it, but I can understand it. And that puts us in a level to where we can have an adult conversation if we so choose to. Or we can simply say, I'm happy with what I believe. I don't know it. You don't know yours either. But it's my tradition. It's what I believe. Some of us like a red car. Others want a black car. That doesn't mean that I'm right and you're wrong. That understanding is very important. Our website is iocchurch.org.com.net. Phone number is 888-501-6689. We're having a very difficult time with this restricted movement, and you can't really tell it. The only thing that's restrictive is that a lot of places are closed down. I don't see anybody, people are still moving around. It's not like people are just staying at home. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about this and what the effects are. And it's really a shame because what people put as important above what is truly important. We'll talk about more of that later. It's been hashed and rehashed to ad nauseum. But anyway, what you believe versus what you know is a very important thing to think about. So spend your Sunday in your lockdown situation during these storms rolling through the wonderful state of Alabama, here in central Alabama in particular, and give thought, what do I really know versus what I only believe? What do I really know versus what I really believe? Take the time. Get out a pen and a piece of paper and put 2 columns. And whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's God, whether it's Jesus, whatever the subject is, lay down over here why I believe and then why I know. And use your capacity right here to distinguish between what you believe and what you know. Having a feeling is not knowing. There is such a thing called intuition, but simply having a feeling saying, ooh, I felt the power of God. That's not a knowing. So distinguish between those things and whatever the subject matter between the belief and the knowing. And see, at the end of the day, you come up with what you really know versus what you only believe. Whether it be a haunted doll, whether it be God, whether it be Jesus, whatever the belief may be. Be able to distinguish between that belief and the knowing so that you expand yourself to be able to reach out and say, I can accept the fact you don't agree with me because really, I can't prove what I believe. I could be wrong, and so could you. We could both be wrong. He could be right, or she could be right. Accept that. Peace.